The Ghost and Mrs. Muir will not be presented tonight so that we may bring you the following special program.
Word Balloon is brought to you by the League of Word Balloon Listeners.
Kingdom Come is 4 separate issues, 48 pages apiece. It was an all-immersive kind of lifestyle for me.
It blew people away. I mean, this was the most sought-after book there was.
This was something very new, very different.
No one had seen anything like that at that scale before.
It was amazing.
I never thought from anything that people would still be talking about this book 25 years later.
If you're here at Word Balloon, it's because you like comics, creators, conversation, pop culture subjects. Would you consider joining the League of Word Balloon Listeners? Patreon.com/wordballoon. When you subscribe, you'll also be part of the Word Balloon Book Club, where Brian Michael Bendis and I will pick a comic every month to review and discuss live with the League on this show. Join the League today, patreon.com/wordballoon. Thank you always for your support, League of Word Balloon listeners. Welcome back, everybody. It's time again for another Word Balloon Scene Missing, where we talk about a movie that maybe flew under your radar, and we want to make you aware of it, because sometimes it's a good movie, sometimes it's a bad movie. Good movie tonight. Very excited to talk about this movie. Good to see Gabe Hardman. How are you, Gabe?
Good. How are you, John?
I'm doing all right, man. I'm doing all right. I told you I saw an old Dick Cavett on YouTube, because I fell down a YouTube rabbit hole, as we want to do.
Sure.
And John Huston was on. It was from the early 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And in that wonderful Cavett cocktail party sort of way, he said, I notice a lot of college kids these days are rediscovering a movie of yours from the 50s, Beat the Devil. Bogey, of course. What do you say about, well, it was ahead of its time, I believe John said. And it was great. And so I'm like, hey, man, Gabe, we got to do Beat the Devil. It's a fun movie.
Had you seen Beat the Devil before? Was it a
long time ago? But it was great to acquaint myself with it.
Same, yeah. It was one that, like, I remember seeing and liking, not knowing quite what to make of it before, and it was always it's one of these movies that fell into the public domain a long time ago, and so it was always available in really shitty copies and shitty versions, and I'm sure that's what I saw ages ago. Although now there's a 4K restoration of it that's pretty good, and it's for free on YouTube. You can just watch it, it's the one streaming with ads. Like if you're going to look this up, that's the one I recommend. Although there's the other shittier versions going around out there, and and I'm not 100% sure. Where did you watch it? Did you watch it on Tubi?
I was planning on watching it on Tubi until you reminded me that the 4K, the new 4K version of it, is on YouTube with ads, and I'm like, all right,
Yeah, I was just curious because I started to watch it for 2 seconds on Tubi and was like, this looks like garbage. I wonder if there's a better version out there. And so I found the one on YouTube, but I never got the chance to go back. I meant to see if that's actually a different version, because they're apparently, like, they'd released it, it didn't play that well. And they cut some of it, added a voiceover, but I'm sure that's the version I saw in the past, but that wasn't this version that I watched.
No, and it's funny now that you say it. I do remember the narration in the version that I remember seeing back in the day.
Right.
So,
to try to make sense out of this movie, because I think this is a super fun movie. I'm not 100% sure it makes any sense.
Well, Gio agrees with you and says, I'm not sure if I liked it or not, but maybe if I saw it again, I'd like it more. Nice twist ending. Yeah, it's really.
I like it, though. I do like it. I think it's a fun movie. But
yeah, but it's it's a little messy as far as its storytelling, and we'll get into the details of why. But it's really more appreciating the scenes. And the more I thought about it, it reminded me of a Coen brother movie.
Sure.
And am I wrong about an Altman movie? I mean, not so different.
Well, no, I think I think it kind of prefigures that Altman thing of, kind of let's not worry about the script. It's a shaggy production that, but something where like an underappreciated thing, I think, something that's a kind of confection that where the stuff that makes it good is kind of the shaggy stuff, the sloppy stuff. But it's also fun and quippy and smart in a certain way. It's smart in that it knows that that's what it is, right? Like it knows it's this kind of movie, and like it's not something like you'll laugh at or it's accidentally a mess. Like, I mean, in that it is a mess, but it's a very fun mess, I think. It's John Huston, right? So and also I think the Coen brothers thing is right on as well, because as far as the Coen brothers movies, for the most part, never have some kind of conventional 3-act structure to them, right? And they don't seem to care about that at all, which I endorse. But and I think this movie is similar in that way. It has such a weird shape to it. It feels Coen-y. Also the tone, obviously.
Yeah.
Dude, what struck you about it watching it this time as opposed to before?
Well, once I saw Huston talk about it with Kevin, and very briefly, they told a couple anecdotes I'll share with everybody. I absolutely recommend watching the interview with Kevin and Huston. You'll find that on YouTube as well. But I had forgotten that Truman Capote had co-written the movie with Huston, and it's like, well, that's very interesting. And and it sounds like, based on, again, what I heard Huston say, that they kind of were writing it as they were shooting because they were kind of not happy with the initial scripts. So, and it basically sounds like kind of like African Queen without the dysentery.
Yes.
That it's like Bogey and Huston are like, why don't we go to Italy?
Yes.
Right. And, it's...
So, I mean, okay, so apparently this thing started with a guy that Huston was friendly with, this guy called Claude Coburn, who wrote the novel. It was written under another, a pseudonym, James Helvig. But, and it was written under a pseudonym because this Coburn guy was a member of the British Communist Party. And the novel came out, which I believe he had broken with by the early 50s, but the novel had come out at the height of the kind of Red Scare stuff. So
absolutely,
the pseudonym was to cover over the fact that that's who he was. He apparently wrote, he was mainly a journalist and written several things under pseudonyms. He and he was a guy, he had covered the Spanish-American War, and but people like George Orwell thought that he was kind of a shill for Stalin, right? Like this is the intercommunist divide of the era. Like, if you're, holding those ideals, or are you just propping up Stalin, who is a bad guy, or defending Stalin, right? And so it was felt like he was just kind of that Coburn was kind of like, he was too much of a shill for Stalin. Eventually but the one thing that I've heard before, I didn't know that it supposedly came from him, is that as a journalist, he said, believe nothing until it's officially denied, which I seems like a particularly valuable thing to think these days. But so Huston, I don't know. It's one of these things. This feels a little bit like Lady from Shanghai also, where why Orson Welles is picking that book or making that book seems to be a little bit unclear. And the end product doesn't really have anything to do with the initial book and, a kind of shaggy production and everything. But he initially Huston got Coburn to write initial screenplay. Huston's always taking co-credit with these things, and I whether or not he really is, is co-writing these, I think is a little unclear. There are a lot of stories about him just hiring somebody and then browbeating them, like Ray Bradbury on Moby Dick and stuff,
You bet.
But apparently he and Coburn wrote a script initially, and then nobody liked that. And the book is not a comedy. Like, it's not a kind of funny-ish adventure. It's like a sort of serious book. I didn't read it, but that's apparently what I got from it. And so they're kind of like just trying to find their way through. Is this like another Maltese Falcon type movie? And and then there was another script that was written by two other guys. Bogart hated that. And now we're like a week before shooting, right? And everybody's there. And, Jennifer Jones is in this, and her husband, David O. Selznick, they had just produced, or, he had just produced something, Indiscretion of an American, Wife,
Housewife.
I think it's called. Yeah, it's Indiscretion of an American Wife, I think. Not Diary of a Mad Housewife, which is a different
Okay.
one. But and Capote had written dialogue on that. Selznick recommends Capote to Huston, and then so Capote is like, sure, all right, sure, I'll do it for a lot of money, like he basically shows up. Huston gives him the novel. Capote says he never reads the novel. And Capote just starts writing scenes, and they're shooting them in the next day or two. And the entire movie basically works that way, where they're just laying down the track as they're, driving the train, right? So, there's a reason it's like this.
Yeah, and Bogey, it's Santana Productions.
Yes.
That's Bogart's production company.
Yes.
And, he lost money on this thing. It did not do well because people didn't know what to make of it. It was tongue in cheek, and it wasn't marketed apparently that way.
Right.
It likely, given the locale, you mentioned Maltese Falcon. Obviously, it's got that Casablanca vibe to it as well.
Sure.
And
just
we're dealing with foreign police.
Houston actually made Maltese Falcon, but yeah, totally.
Well, yeah, and of course, absolutely. But just from a visual and the fact that it's international, I almost wonder too, Gabe, if this would have done better if it hadn't been on location and they had, as opposed to the amount of local Italian actors. No disrespect to the Italians, because this is the La Dolce Vita era, so there certainly is quality filmmakers and actors all over Italy,
that's actually
including.
This is more the Rome Open City era. I mean, and then there's all that stuff happens like almost 10 years later. But yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought it was.
Sure.
Or yeah, you're right. Yeah. What's
that's kind of late 50s, early 60s stuff, and this is late 40s, early 50s type of stuff.
Yeah. What was the Quinn movie where he's the strong man?
La Strada.
La Strada, yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. That's what I meant when I said Dolce Vita.
So, but yes, you're right. So, but we're still in kind of neo-realist Italian cinema, is what I'm saying.
And Chico Rojo found a quote from Bogey about the movie. The only people who like this movie are phonies, which is hilarious. Well, and I understand, because obviously these are a group of con men, and they're trying to do a land grab in Africa because the land has uranium in it. Yep. And so obviously great time during the atomic age and everything to be in the uranium business.
Sure.
So,
I mean, but also, I mean, as far as that quote goes, I think it just plays as much to what you're saying about how it lost money and wasn't a success. The people of, show business people, movie business people of that time, whenever they would never acknowledge failures, and they would and I mean, it's still like that to a degree, but like this kind of thing of like, oh, if people remember that, who knows what'll happen, or if they talk about them, they say they're bad movies because they were failures, not because they were creative failures necessarily, but because financial failures,
Yeah, but Bogey had a bad time in the production of this movie regardless. I don't know if you read about it, but
a little, sure.
He had a car accident while they made the movie.
That's right.
He lost teeth.
Yes.
And, never a pleasant experience. And that's where, and I don't know, I didn't catch it, but supposedly there are portions where someone else is dubbing Bogey's voice.
Yeah, I read that it was Peter Sellers. I feel like that's a weird thing that I don't believe. Like I didn't go any, I think I found that online, and I don't know if I believe that. But
the other thing that happened that Huston revealed on Capote was that I guess during one drunken night or drunken day, Capote and Bogart wrestled, and Capote won, which is fantastic. And I bet Bogey didn't like that. No, he was not very happy about that.
He was also like Bogart is a tiny little guy. Like he's not a strapping, but he's not really a strapping tough guy. He's this spindly older guy, and Capote had age on his side too.
According to exactly, he's starting to get older and stuff. Capote apparently was very nimble, and a lot stronger than you would imagine. And it's like, okay, which is I just kind of yes, I just beat your ass, didn't I? Shut up and drink.
I did notice a couple. I hadn't read that yet. The thing about the knocking the teeth out or whatever, and I did notice a couple of lines. I thought one of them sounded like Huston. That's what I wondered. Bogart,
yeah, that's what I wondered.
But and look, for some reason I've ended up watching, just kind of coincidentally, I've watched a few other Huston movies lately. I rewatched his Moby Dick. I watched Night of the Iguana and something else recently. And like in his Moby Dick, there's like in the opening scene or an early scene. There's a barman type character who was 1,000% voiced by John Huston, right? Like, and I mean, I think at the time he was not as much of a character actor. I don't think people were as aware of his voice. But whenever you watch, it's a little like Wells and the kind of independent movies that he made, like, Chimes at Midnight, where like half of the characters are Orson Welles voices, But yeah, I mean, I did notice that. The thing about
what did you think of Jennifer Jones's performance? Because I understand that she was a 50s it girl. Everybody really wanted to work with her, but I almost wish, and especially I'm going to put the poster back up for a second. I almost wish that Janet Leigh would have played this role. Cause sure. I mean, and it's odd because Jennifer Jones, not a natural blonde, right, as I remember. And,
no, she wasn't. I mean, they went out of their way to change her look for this. But she did
okay. But I really think
here's the thing for me with Jennifer Jones.
Tell me.
I don't think she's a very good actor, but I actually like her better in this than I like her in straighter stuff. Right?
I agree.
I think that she had more of a talent for this kind of thing, for this kind of like. Not as, I mean, like her trying to play things deathly seriously. And a lot of her movies, she was married to David O. Selznick. He kind of shaped her persona. He would be very protective of, her whole thing. And, and I mean, I don't know how, or maybe I was watching a John Huston, like, biography type thing from the 80s. And somebody was saying that, like, they went out of their way to try to keep David O. Selznick away because he's so controlling about everything, so that they could do more, like do stuff that's more like looser with Jennifer Jones, like not have her be so controlled. And I liked her better in this than I've liked her in other things, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, could somebody else do better? I mean, I think that you were saying Janet Leigh, right? I think real life wise, she was too young at this point, kind of, to play that character. She is like in,
Holiday Affair was like 5 years before this in 47.
Oh yeah. That's true. She's in Act of Violence in like 40 or something like that. But she's like 20 years old, right? So like it's not, she's
probably in her late 20s, probably late 20s.
Sure. I will say I kind of like that. I do kind of like it that apart from Gina Lollobrigida, everybody's kind of an adult in this movie,
I agree.
Even about Jennifer Jones, I kind of like that her character feels like an adult instead of like a 20-year-old who's pretending to be an adult, like a lot of those, movies.
Okay, but I guess maybe I'm judging 30 something Janet Leigh, but I felt she could handle comedy and probably even more so than Jones. But again, I think Jones.
I'm not knocking Janet Leigh. If like Janet Leigh from 5 years later than this, from Touch of Evil era, Janet Leigh playing this part would be great. Like, I mean, I think she would be great in it, right? Like, I'm not knocking that at all. I think she's really good.
Well, but the rest of the cast, first of all, I'm always happy to see Robert Morley, and even in bad movies, Robert Morley is just this delightful, character actor.
Sure.
And I'm sorry I don't have a picture handy. But, hopefully you saw the movie, or this will guide you to see the movie. But, of course, 2 years earlier, he's in African Queen.
Yeah.
No scenes per se. Actually, I take that back. 1 or 2 scenes with Bogart as well. But he played Katharine Hepburn's older brother in African Queen.
Yeah,
and also working with
very
Huston.
Beginning, he's in it with Bogart.
Yeah. Well, he's the preacher, and, Rose Hepburn's is his sister that is also a missionary with him. Right. Trying to, Christianize, if that's a word, the Africans. So, but no, I thought he was great. And of course, Peter Lorre, and of course, give me a cigarette holder and I'll be fine. It's like, all right.
Peter Lorre, I think, is pretty great in this. Like, I mean, like, he doesn't have tons to do, but but like, there's something about his presence that's really good. Apparently it was actually from the book, but one of my favorite bits in it is like, he's German and he's named O'Hara, and they're like defending this, like he's defending it like it makes sense. And I think that's great. I think that's really funny.
Absolutely.
He's also got this dyed blonde hair that like also has I kept going, is his hair changing color from scene to scene? But like in darker scenes, it just, the light hits it weird and it looks dark. And then outside it's like bright white, and it just is a odd thing. Although this was shot by Oswald Morris, who's a great DP who worked on several Huston movies. And then, like he goes on to do Lolita, Kubrick's Lolita, and The Spy Who Came In From the Cold. And he's especially his black and white photography, I think, is incredibly beautiful and great and a little innovative. I see, I think that Huston was somebody who could, who I guess he had a clear idea of what he was doing and a clear style to a degree, but all his movies are so different. And it does feel like the ones that Oswald Morris shot, there's a kind of confidence with the camera that isn't always there in some of the other ones. I mean, like in rewatching Moby Dick that Oswald Morris also shot, there's so much of it that feels like a more modern kind of visual storytelling than you were getting at the time. Like, the camera following things and handing off and being like, being a little bit more mobile and more like precise in a weird way. Although I'm sure that making of that movie was a mess too. But like, I see shots that feel like Spielberg shots and shots that feel like it feels like the kind of thing that's influenced people.
Do you think the reason why they made this film, and especially going to Italy as well, this, as you say, it's the height of the Red Scare, and even Bogart had a moment with the Un-American Activities Committee and was very, very vocal, and they made that great Hollywood Stands Up or whatever radio show with him and Lucille Ball, and then all of a sudden he kind of got slapped down.
Yeah, he folded like a deck chair. Yeah, but I'm sure that going to Europe was, there was an appeal to just avoiding all of that shit.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, man. That let's get out of Hollywood for a while and do something else. And again, especially given that Bogart produced the movie. So
sure. Yeah. Well, and there's that too. Like, I mean, although it's not a studio movie, like it's an independently made movie. So it's not like they're, it's not like they're getting away from the studio, but which, is a reason to go on location a lot of the time, right? To if you get away from the front office, so they can't bother.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I think it was a co-production with a co-production with an Italian company and an English company as well.
I see. Okay, I was going to ask, was an African Queen a non-studio film as well?
I think that's right. Yeah, I think that's right. But I can't remember the specifics.
But and obviously, I appreciate that. Getting money from Italy and everything, and maybe there was a deal to obviously use more Italian actors as they did and everything. I don't know.
I suppose. I mean, I guess, I didn't have an issue with that. Like, I kind of like the texture of it, of the local actors
Sure.
and all that sort of stuff.
Well, it made it more genuine. Yeah.
Yeah, and it just, I don't know. I mean, like, I feel like that it plays in, especially, with Italian actors, they can be heightened, it plays into the tone of the thing. I don't know. To me, it does anyway.
No, I hear you.
But yeah, I mean, I do think you can. There's witty stuff in it though, and there is good dialogue in it, and and then a lot of the Capote stuff is good, but apparently Huston would also just like not give people sides, not give people pages and script pages, and then like right before the camera roll, just tell them what their line is, or I mean, it was very much like you say, a more Robert Altman-y sort of improvisational thing in a time when that just wasn't really done in very much. And
did Huston after this? Did he ever do? I don't think he ever did it that way again. Frankly,
I mean, I think that he's, I think that he had a tendency to go into things without everything being perfect. I mean, but I don't know. I'd be interested. I don't know. I mean, I know about John Huston. I feel like I've heard a lot about John Huston, but I, going through my, not to be some movie nerd, but usually I have a book on somebody when when we do one of these things. Right. Sure. And I did, I did have some stuff to refer to, but I don't have like a John Huston biography. So like, I'd be interested in, like kind of training in on him a little more and, finding out more. I did have a biography of Peter Lorre though that had a chunk on this movie, and I got some good stuff from that. But but like I said, his role was fairly minimal.
G. Corojo is the one that's chiming in the most, and he says Laurie's line about time was one of the best, and he's asking us what our favorite John Huston film was. His was The Man Who Would Be King, of course.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a tough call. I mean, I like Man Who Would Be King. I like, I like Moby Dick. Actually, I like. I certainly like. I'm maybe Asphalt Jungle might be it for me. That's. Cool. I think that's a really great movie. It's a really solid and entertaining movie.
Yeah.
That's a good question though. What about yourself, John?
Maltese Falcon certainly, and like you, I can't pick one. But Maltese Falcon, yes. And I would also say I agree with you about Asphalt Jungle. But, honestly, to me, it was such a delight in the 80s that Prizzi's Honor was as good as it was. And I had already been a long time Huston fan, thanks to revivals and VCRs. So when I saw it, I'm like, oh, that is so cool that John Huston's, definitely in the last years of his career.
Sure.
And I never saw The Dead. I never saw his final film.
I've never seen that either.
And Mr. North, did he also do Mr. North?
I think that was something that like he started. I want to say co-wrote and his son made it or something like that. It's something like that.
Prizzi's is really among my favorite mob movies ever. It really is.
It's a fun movie. Fat City is good.
City's amazing. Shame on me being the boxing guy. You're
boxing guy, right? Yeah. I remember going to see that, like a screening of that, and like probably 20 years ago, and Conrad Hall was there to talk about it, and he legendary director of photography. We talked about him a lot on The Outer Limits because he started out as shooting some of those Outer Limits episodes, and he talked about it and was very, like that movie. Like, I mean, several John Huston movies was not well received when it came out, or I think it was critically well. Fat City was more critically well received, and then just didn't make any money. But like, he at the time, Conrad Hall was very much like, I don't know. I mean, I think people just don't want to see movies about losers, like, and
Well, yeah, I mean,
you
it is
know,
kind of
and
a
like,
bumper
but
movie, yeah.
but it's a really beautifully made movie, although gritty, and I think they shot it like in Stockton or someplace like in
California.
Central California,
Yeah.
and I mean, I think that's a good one.
George Foreman. I don't mean to name drop, but George Foreman and I bonded over Fat City.
Okay,
And he's like, "That's my favorite," because I brought a copy of the book for him to autograph when I first met him. And he's like,
yeah.
"I love this." He goes, "This is my favorite book." And he goes, "Have you seen the movie?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "It's one of my favorite movies." I'm like, "That's why I'm bringing it to you, George." Here
Nice.
you go.
Yeah, nice. But yeah, I mean, like, it's like his movies are sort of, I've never seen the Bible, like,
I haven't
these
seen
movies that are like,
I probably saw a few minutes of it back on like a 3:30 afternoon movie sort of situation.
I mean, I did just watch Night of the Iguana, which is, Tennessee Williams wrote it, and it's very heightened, and but also pretty funny, and pretty and I almost, it's not a similar tone to this movie, but it has that kind of, slightly kind of shaggy, heightened feel to it, even though it's very scripted. But I actually kind of liked that movie a lot more watching it this time than I had before. The Misfits is interesting.
Misfits is really good.
And then there's stuff like Moulin Rouge or The Red Badge of Courage, things that are kind of don't work but they're interesting. I don't know.
Chikuro asks if we've seen Annie. He was stunned that Huston did that. I have seen it.
Yeah, I'm sure that John Huston sat in a chair and drank booze while they were making that movie.
But there's moments in Annie, and
I have not seen it. I've not seen it since I was a kid. Like, I just haven't. So yeah.
I understand. And listen, I had to sit through it, but I do remember, and this was really during her very great period of film acting. Carol Burnett is amazing in it.
Yeah, right.
And she's like the asshole woman that runs the orphanage and everything. And yeah, she's the bad guy, but she manages, like, okay, I disagree with you, but I get where you're coming from.
Right.
And it's too bad that life is beating you down so hard that you're such a miserable person. And I mean, really, I just have tremendous respect for Carol Burnett, and whether that was just her naturally, because she's always been great, pretty much in everything I've seen her in, including Palm whatever Springs, the Apple show that she's been doing lately. Yeah, so I don't know, but yeah, I had.
Well, I mean, Huston says though that he's a director who casts and lets people do their job, right? So, like, I don't think he wasn't like a psychologically minded Elia Kazan who's coming in and giving you these notes or like mind fucking you in some way. Although I'm sure he did that, but probably just in
we know he did
on the stage.
Yeah, we know he did to poor Ray Bradbury.
Sure. Well, yes, absolutely.
But I was going to say, I do remember hearing Robert Forster, Jackie Brown.
Well, yeah, in Reflections in the Golden Eye.
Right, but yeah, Forster or Foster?
Forster.
Yeah, thank you. But yeah, he was talking about making Reflections of the Golden Eye, and he was scared to death because it's Brando, Elizabeth Taylor, Ray Stark producing, and Huston. And I forget, I don't remember to actually repeat his exact words, but essentially, like you just said, he's like, everything's gonna be fine, Robert. Don't worry about a thing.
Right.
Right. All you have to do is say the lines. It'll be great.
Right.
And he goes, it really helped him out and put him at ease.
Another thing about Huston is that he's a chaos guy, right? Like, he wants to create a kind of chaos and flourishes in that, right? So that's kind of why I'm saying I don't know that you could say that he never really made a movie like that again, because, like, apparently his whole life was a little like this, where he's creating situations. I mean, on that, on that old kind of biography type thing, when they're talking to Lauren Bacall about him, and she was around him a bunch because of Bogart, like, she said that, Bogart would do pretty much anything that Huston, wanted to do with except that, they both knew that Huston was kind of crazy, I mean, like, he was a kind of a nutbag at the same time. Right. So, like, if, like, I do think that the chaos, like the creating a sense of chaos, creating this kind of weird off-kilter energy was part of the way that he thrived. And I think that really plays into this movie.
I would recommend for podcast lovers to seek out Katrina Longworth's You Must Remember This Old Hollywood podcast. And she did, her last series was titled The Old Man Is Still Alive. And she does these wonderful looks at directors, obviously, as the title would suggest, in their final years trying to make films. And the Huston episode is fantastic and just discusses Annie, discusses Prizzi's Honor, a lot of these last movies of Huston's. So I think you'll glean a lot more from what we're talking about, even more if you listen to Katrina's podcast. It's great.
Yeah, no, that's a really good series. Totally worth listening to, except for the Alfred Hitchcock one with that voice that she does. It's her doing the imitation of Francois Truffaut.
Oh well, yeah. I mean,
I'm the biggest Hitchcock fan in the world, and I literally couldn't finish the episode because it was so
and when she was doing Truffaut.
That's what I'm saying.
Well.
When she's doing Truffaut, that's what I meant. Like when she was doing the Truffaut impression. The doing an impression of a French guy, and like, oh my god, it was too much. We couldn't deal with it.
What are you gonna do?
I highly recommend that series, though. I mean,
but neither of us, when we were going through great Huston movies, we didn't mention Sierra Madre, which is amazing.
Sierra Madre and Key Largo, right? Like, so
Key Largo, yes, God.
And both of them are fucking great. Like, it's for a guy that I think, how big of a fan of John Huston fan am I? Like, he's got like this, for it's the fact that he made a whole bunch of kind of messy, terrible movies. Like, he made these incredible movies too. Like he has an unbelievably solid collection of like all-timer movies as well.
Sure. Well, but that's why we're talking about Beat the Devil rather than the obvious.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean,
absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, like, we don't need to tell everybody Treasure of the Sierra Madre is great, but also, I mean, I do think Key Largo is great. That's a movie I come back to and watch frequently. I love the atmosphere of it and and like the kind of
everybody in that.
Everybody's great. The Claire Trevor in it.
That's what I was gonna say. Claire Trevor, really, man. It's like,
she's like the
that's
best thing in the movie in a lot of ways. And the scene where she's humiliated and has to sing and everything. I mean, I think that there is definitely a kind of sadistic thing that goes through these Huston movies, where, a certain amount of kind of, not to say that he's into humiliating the actors. I don't know that that's the case, but like characters that can be pathetic and can be, and losers and people who like this movie. This movie is about people who are striving for something that's ultimately futile, right? Like, and that's what Sierra Madre is about. Like, if, and I find that incredibly appealing. And I also think that, people think of somebody like John Huston or even Bogart, and they think of them as these kind of like, macho tough guys. But part of that is, that makes that like less kind of one-dimensional and gross, is that they're often telling stories about people who are not just one-dimensional heroes. They're people who were fucking striving and going for something and never quite getting there, or are losers or whatever. Like, that's the thing that interests me so much about his movie.
Absolutely. No, again, this is a great example of that. And the chemistry between everybody. I mean, that's the thing. It's the scenes more than the story.
Right.
It really is the
scene.
Well,
yeah, I guess. I have a hard time thinking that way. But I mean, I respect that. I think you're right. But it also, I do feel like something can be a kind of souffle, and all those scenes are holding up a very fragile thing that it could go terribly wrong if it takes a misstep.
Story. Yeah, they don't lose the story. It's just not as important as the moments in the movie.
And I guess that for me, a lot of the time, it is less important. Like, a plot is less important to me to some extent. Like, I want something that is, creating a feeling. The movie itself, the filmmaking, the acting, the elements of it are creating a feeling more than I want something that is kind of, doling out the plot in a way that, even though that can be great, right? But I can love stuff like that, but sometimes it's more important to me, stuff like this, stuff that's ephemeral, that doesn't have, you can have a very mechanical plot and it works out, it pays off, and people are happy. But somehow things can be a little more than that sometimes, and even when they seem a little less than that on the surface, And I do feel this is not the greatest example of that, but it is kind of a movie like that.
Well, I really liked Jones and Lola Brigida's scenes together as well, because they weren't the typical kind of catty,
Yeah. Oh, I agree. Yeah. And a lot of it, I think that's you know what? Now that you mention it, I think that in general, that's a value of this movie, that the characters aren't really interacting in the cliched ways that you would expect them to, you know? And I think that's like a big part of it. Yeah. I don't know. It's a great observation. And because that's part of what keeps it buoyant. Like that people, if it just felt like, oh, it's this kind of character and he's doing
boilerplate,
you wouldn't be like kind of thrust along with it the way that you are.
Yeah. And I think
still don't know what the fuck it's about or how it, but I do enjoy the thing.
But that's the thing. I mean, and really, again, going back to that Cavitt conversation and how he said college kids seems to really, that it's become a cult favorite amongst them. I absolutely see them loving Maltese Falcon and Casablanca, and then get this shade of Bogart.
And I think it's also that, because so I read, I think in the Peter Lorre biography, I read that the movie wasn't successful when it was initially released, and then it was re-released in '64, and that's when college kids and stuff started watching.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And when you think about the difference between 1953 and 1964, when the Beatles have happened and Kennedy was killed, and these things that dramatically changed the tone of the culture, and in a decade, the 60s, that brought in this kind of postmodern feel to stuff, right? Like you can everything wasn't quite as earnest. And this movie feels like a movie that works in it feels kind of proto New Hollywood in a certain way.
Yes, very much so.
And you can easily see why it would be coming back up again in that early 70s, era when, people were looking at movies in a different way. And even somebody said, and maybe, I think it may have been a quote from Peter Lorre, I can't remember, but that it's the kind of movie that would have played great in art houses even in the 50s, but that that they tried to release as a big, straightforward movie, and people went in thinking it was one thing, got this thing, right, and then and then were kind of disappointed with it.
Yeah, they weren't ready for it.
And if and probably hipper audiences would have gotten into it more, but that's you don't make your money back in the art house,
Right. Satire closes on Friday night or whatever they used to say.
Yeah, totally.
I agree. And and again, on paper, hey, John Huston and Humphrey Bogart, come on, man. That's like Scorsese and De Niro in the 80s and everything. Like,
right. And then it's Scorsese and De Niro giving you king of comedy, right? Like it's the thing that people don't want from them, right?
G. Kuroho was asking if any directors from the 60s or 70s cited Beat the Devil as an inspiration, other directors now. Well, I know Tarantino and the Coen brothers do love it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can certainly see the Coen brothers of it all. I mean, I'm sure there's that makes sense for Tarantino as well. But I don't know. I haven't.
I don't. I mean, like I said, I don't know if there's a through line from Huston to Altman, but Altman was the one that made that in the mind rewatching it.
Right. And I think and Altman seems like one of those guys who doesn't think a hell of a lot about other movies and stuff, although he did he basically, his 70s output is basically remaking genre movies into, slightly absurd other things. So it's not like he's not engaging with other movies, but who knows? But yeah, I don't know. It's a good question. That's interesting, but I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I feel like we kind of talked about it, but
we're good. I think we're good. I mean,
the one other thing I wanted to say though is I meant to say this before, but we do like a mini kinescope here for a second, because
Gabe, yes, please talk about what you saw this weekend, please.
Because like I saw something like that feels only for the people who watch these shows we do. Like at UCLA, they had a screening of this of a televised version from 1960 of a play called The Night of the Auk, and it starred William Shatner. And it was written by Arch Obler from radio's Lights Out, and he was thought of as a as a reasonably well respected writer at the time. Did a lot of genre stuff, and he wrote this play. It was a Broadway play, and it only had it ran for 8 performances, right? 5 days, 8 performances. And it crashed and burned. The play was actually directed by Sidney Lumet. The Broadway play was directed by Sidney Lumet. The TV version was not. But I don't know, and I'm not 100% sure because nothing seems to quite know. But like I'm sure somebody does. But but it was none of the people who were in this TV version. I don't think were in the play. I'm sure because it closed and it was a bad, wasn't a great thing for your career or whatever. And they're doing this after the play closed. But I guess it was a kind of syndicated series. It was live, right? It's live to tape.
Do you know? Was it a Susskind produced series or
no? It was. Damn it! It was the guy. The producer was. He's one of the guys we talked about from the live TV world.
Tony Miner?
No.
Fred Roos or Fred? Not Fred Roos. He's 70s.
No, he's another guy.
Oh God, the guy who made Dobie, the guy who produced Reginald Rose, perhaps.
It's not Reginald Rose. Shit, I will look at it. Worthington Minor. It came to me.
Yeah, Tony Minor. Yeah, that's Tony Minor.
I didn't hear you. I guess I just didn't hear you. Sorry.
Okay. Well, also I called him Tony as opposed to Worthington.
Oh, yeah. No, Worthington.
Tony Randall referred to him, and also Jack Lemmon.
Oh,
and
sorry. I'm not as close.
Worthington and I were very, close at our club.
Yeah,
that's why I call him Tony.
Not close personal friends like you are.
No, he did Mr. Peepers, I believe.
Yes, yeah, I think that's right. So it's a science fiction thing. It's about a group, like this group of 5 astronauts who've gone to the moon, and they successfully landed on the moon and are coming back. One of them has died before the thing starts, and apparently went nuts and went out on the moon by himself and died when they took off and got burned up, right? And Shatner is in command, but here's the thing: the dialogue is in blank verse. It's like this quasi Shakespeare thing, right? And all of the dialogue is incredibly like kind of flowery and florid, and at first it's pretty jarring and kind of laughable, but honestly, I kind of got into it. I kind of liked this thing, right?
Oh, that's awesome.
And Shatner, of everybody's, pretty heightened. It's clearly like they are shooting a Broadway play, right? It's on one stage. It's shot in a pretty prosaic way. But it's not John Frankenheimer, like shooting live TV where everything is, going all the time. But I in a way, it kind of worked for it. It worked for it in that the set was very simple and the things they're doing are not literal, right? It's like a play. Like you go to a play and you don't expect them, you don't expect literally every piece of machinery to work and all that. It's, it's a metaphor or whatever, right?
Did you get the year? What year was it?
It's 1960. So it's late enough that so UCLA, I think, has like the only version of this, right? It's not really publicly available unless it's gotten out lately,
Was it videotape? Because they did have tape in 60.
Yes. So like it was on videotape. So that was what they were projecting. The 2-inch videotape was what they were projecting. And which is actually really cool. I saw something else there. Days of Wine and Roses. They projected the videotape of, and
Cliff Robertson and Piper Laurie, and
the live TV version of that. And like that, it is really interesting how good it looked. Like there was age and whatever, but really there's something very striking about seeing these things that are on tape from that period of time, because it feels a little bit like you're looking into that world in a way that you don't necessarily with film, and certainly not with kinescopes that our podcast was named after, right?
Yeah,
because kinescopes are these, that's just a motion picture camera photographing a video monitor. It is a crummy quality. It's the only way they had to preserve it before videotape came in.
And the only way to ship it off to the West Coast, so they can air it in the West Coast,
right? Because it's live and it's just going out there. If you're
before
not,
the coaxial cable, when we had
coast
to coast,
and before videotape. So so this is 1960. So it's in the, it's by the time that there's videotape, and 2-inch, that's like a not insignificant amount of information, because back when in analog days, like the earliest days I worked in movies and stuff, like, I don't know, like 3/4 or something was like as big as you were going to get, right?
Gabe, we shot our TV show here in Chicago in the late 90s on 2-inch video.
Oh, really? Wow.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Absolutely.
But I just don't think anybody really used that professionally as much anymore. But but I think the quality is really good, is my point.
Everything you're saying about that, that's why I like that handful of Twilight Zones that they managed to find that were on videotape. And, Sci-Fi Channel and others will play those. You can watch it on Paramount Plus and see them. And I agree. It's cool. It's like, it is black and white still. And also, for a minute, that Decades channel was showing Studio One. And they were showing a lot of their later plays that were made 60, 61, and those were videotaped.
Interesting.
And it really, it's fun to see that, because it is like almost being there.
Yeah, it really is. And seeing it in a theater, it really feels like it. I mean, this is the kind of raw tape, and so there's no commercials in it. There's just cut away to a bumper. And then there's this one bit where, like, between one of the act breaks, you cut back for a second, and there's a clapperboard, and William Shatner is like awkwardly sitting in front of the camera, like looking around, like just waiting for the take to start, and little glimpses like that are great.
That's great.
But I did like this thing. Ultimately, Shatner, it basically is about how much they come to regret letting this this trip to the moon be a privately funded thing by Shatner's character, who is a kind of nepo baby. Like, his father was a rich, important guy, and he's using this money to try to make himself somebody, and Shatner turns out to basically be the bad guy. I mean, this was like kind of, they promoted it as, it's, Star Trek's William Shatner's first time in a space thing. This is a dry run for Captain Kirk. And that is zero what it was like, right? It's not like that in any way. Like, he plays a kind of, narcissistic, like guy who's ultimately only out for the glory, more than happy to betray his crew members, and is ultimately broken by it. So, I mean, at least there's a sort of a nice cathartic element to it, where the horrible narcissist dies. But if there's a way to see this, I totally recommend it. I think it's pretty interesting. Arch Oboler also made a movie, I think, called Five. That's a weird little independent movie from it's either 4 or 5, I can't remember, but it's a sort of another kind of like post-atomic war sort of movie. No, it's a feature length movie.
I vaguely have heard about this.
It's obscure, and I ended up seeing it.
It's a shame, because Obler is such a great writer, and his main medium was radio. But I am sorry that he didn't get more Serling kind of attention when he was doing things like this and into potentially even movies, because he lived long enough that he could have done more.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It is called Five. It's from 1951.
Okay.
So,
51.
and like I know it got a DVD release at some point because that's how I saw it. It's kind of a sci-fi movie, and it's just about like five people in that are sole survivors of the bomb, and like it's shot in some weird architectural house out in the desert, and I remember it being a really interesting movie, if not perfectly, like working, but yeah, I think that the arch oboler of it all is just that most of these thought known from radio, and people don't remember that anymore, and just never connected in a mainstream sort of way. Like if somehow this play had connected, if somehow one of the movies he made or whatever, I think that people would remember him now. But he seems to be just one of those guys who was well known enough just by his name at the time, and then but has sort of slipped away.
Well, I mean, Lights Out was an incredible radio show, and it was an early television show, and there were kinescopes. We did an art show. We did a Lights Out.
We did, yeah. And I believe that this Night of the Auk started as a Lights Out, and and then was expanded into this stage play.
Well, and again, in the 40s, Lights Out had its cultural moment, and probably again leading into the early television days of the 40s and 50s. And to the point where, you'll forgive me, I'm going to mention somebody canceled. Bill Cosby had the very funny bit on his record album, The Chicken Heart, which was a real Lights Out horror story about this heart that keeps growing and growing and ultimately engulfs the world.
Yeah. Right.
And it's ridiculous, but really Cosby, when he does the bit, it's a funny bit.
Sure.
And he does hit the kind of high notes of the story. And Cat Wife was scary as hell, which was this woman that slowly became much like her cats.
Yeah.
And Karloff did an early version of that on Lights Out. Also, there was a Kickstarter. I don't know if it finished or not. But there a bunch of comic creators were going to adapt a bunch of Lights Out episodes as a horror anthology. And then there was there was vinyl, and they were bringing back a lot of the old shows, which, by the way, Lights Out, you can find it on the Internet Archive and episodes on YouTube as well. So no, I love that we're talking about Art Chobler. I'm very happy to do that. And
so anyway, this thing was really interesting. I don't know how seeable this is because it's UCLA projecting one of the few copies, and I couldn't find it anywhere on YouTube. People say that it's not really available. I think that it really is just that UCLA has the.
But remember, a couple of years ago, I remember they had on their website, and maybe it was during COVID, and that's why it was on their website. But they streamed some great early television on their website for a moment. But again, and you had to give a donation to see it. It was reasonable. That was only like $5 or something. And again, maybe that was because it was during COVID and they weren't able to do screenings like they're able to again now.
Yeah, but I think that it's. But that was also just a selection of stuff, and and there may be rights reasons why they can't release this. Sure. I mean, it was also. I think they mostly do free screenings now at UCLA. You just show up and get a ticket, and
show your student ID.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Harvey Korman.
If I ever gone to college, I would still have it. But there
you go. Was there a Q&A afterwards?
No, because
too bad
everybody's dead. But no, I mean there wasn't for this particular one. No.
Okay. They couldn't get Shatner.
Yeah, I don't think so. I bet he would not remember it. Or choose not to remember. And he is really over the top in it. Like even by the standards of the other actors in it, he's over the top. But
all right, well then, watch Outer Limits and see those great episodes, and watch Nick of Time, the Twilight Zone episode.
He's bigger than any of those things. He goes bigger than any of that stuff. But very stage play theatrical stuff.
He says if you want to see Shatner's dry run for Kirk, watch Alexander the Great from '63, also with Adam West. Everybody,
sure.
This thing,
yeah.
And Nero Wolfe, he did the Nero Wolfe Unsold pilot.
Yep.
So. I don't know, Gabe. It's funny, since we did our Kinescope show and when we kind of, I think unfortunately we saw a lot of bad ones. I might have like hurt our our love of doing Kinescope. I don't know, but I keep finding other interesting ones.
I didn't run out of love for Kinescope.
Okay,
I think that it was that no one besides us cared about it. I think that was the fatal flaw of that show, right?
Well,
like if anyone ever listened to it or watched it or cared, it might have been more successful.
I got a handful of emails, not many, but I did get a handful of emails. And again, I don't know, Gabe, I really believe, and we're talking about a 1953 movie. I think there's an audience for mid 20th century pop culture.
Sure.
And that's why I love that we do
I do
this.
too. But I think that the reason I wanted to do Kinescope was because those shows are exciting. When I actually saw them, I was really impressed by a lot of it. And and they're really interesting, but it's also a kind of weird little niche world that is not like it's not fueled in the current imagination or even nostalgic people's imagination by having been syndicated or run on TV, in the afternoon or whatever. The ways that lots and lots of this stuff, people's interest in it is driven by, I vaguely remember watching that on TV when I was a kid. I'll revisit it or whatever. And also a lot of the stuff is kind of serious, right? Like they're serious one-off things. People like series and they like, they like things that, that where there's comfort in it. And there's not a lot of comfort in an anthology, right? True. Like it, with the Twilight Zone, you are getting, you're getting the Serling that you can hang on to, or with the Hitchcock Presents, the host or something will be comforting. But I mean, I think that it's just, and it's also just too and the kinescopes don't look very good a lot of the time.
Sure.
They're inaccessible. All these are the reasons I wanted to do it. I never have regrets for doing things that I think that I'm interested in, and regardless of whether anybody else is interested in.
No, I get it, and I feel the same way. And further, as you and I know, and likely the audience that's watching and listening knows, so many of those great directors, they got their start in live television. So you're getting Franklin Schaffner and Frankenheimer and Lumet, and even Yul Brynner, before their careers took off. And I mean, that's and same with the actors for that matter as well. Jack Lemmon, and I mentioned Tony Randall, and everybody in these things. And so Redford in his early days doing live TV.
So many people. There's 1,000 reasons why it's super interesting, and I think that's why it's like totally. It's just that the core thing is something that people probably can't really relate to, and also just I think this is a kind of barrier to entry. It feels like, I don't know, that sounds like an inaccessible, old-fashioned thing, and maybe a little bit, but also kind of not. Like there's also, I think people think of them as stiff and boring and stagey. And like that's what I was worried about going into this Shatner thing. I thought, a lot of people, there was a certain percentage of the audience who came there to laugh at it, right? Because people come to things with preconceptions, and it doesn't matter what the actual thing is; they'll just react based on their preconceptions. But I think that it's my worry about it was not that it was going to be campy. My worry was that it was going to be boring and stagey. It's 2 hours long. It's a whole Broadway play.
Wow.
Right? It's not like it's not a tiny, it's a 5-act, 2-hour thing. Right.
Yeah.
So, like it's serious business. And, and it gets real tragic too. And big things happen in it. And I don't know if I should spoil it or not, because I don't know if anybody can see it, but it is, I think it's worthwhile and weird and interesting.
Well, by that point, Worthington Minor had been making live TV for over 10 years, and he only got better as he did it. And he was one of the great anthology directors, and he had Mr. Peepers, and I don't know offhand the other shows. But Klugman, Jack Lemmon, and also Tony Randall really had nothing but like effusive praise. And I believe I read a Worthington Minor biography while we were doing Kinescope and everything. No, he's great. So that doesn't surprise me in terms of the fact that it was quality. You know what? A wrinkle, and it sounds like it wasn't part of this episode or this production that you saw, but I had forgotten, and I forget what Kinescope I had seen recently, but I kind of liked when they would do a bumper between acts when they used to have the painting that would depict whatever the story was. There's a great one for 12 Angry Men.
Right. Oh yeah.
You know, things like that.
Yeah.
And that was kind of common. And it's like, wow, that's a cool job to have.
Yeah.
Whip
and
up a
also,
painting for us,
and also often that kind of mid-century look to,
right. The style of art. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Very much so. Yeah. So, well, that's
good. I mean, that was less so with this. This apparently was a show that presented plays, but I heard that it was syndicated. I don't even know how that works back then, or if that was right. But
I wish I knew the title of the series, because again,
it's called Play of the Week. I mean, it was just called the Play of the Week.
Play of the Week. Okay, because I know Randall and Lemon talked about later minor productions and stuff, and so it sounds like, and again, this is right at the end of live TV.
Yeah.
Performing. So,
I also because
is there a director's name?
And the director it was two guys. I didn't know either of the names.
Shoot the names.
And it's actually tough to find
I'm sorry,
information on it. But it's a guy who has a really long Greek name that I'm not even going to be able to pronounce. So maybe I should just send it to you. But
exactly. It's my uncle. What are you talking about?
Yeah, exactly. Where is it? Anyway, the thing that I feel like I have to say about this is that this is 1960, and I was unclear about this. I was unsure going in. He's wearing a toupee. William Shatner is wearing a toupee at this point. It is not the pre-toupee Shatner. As we've all established, he's wearing a toupee already in the original Star Trek series. But by 1960, already has a toupee.
Wow.
That was a big question mark I had going in. But definitely. Because also the further back you go, the cheaper looking his toupees are. So it's easy.
I understand. Because Judgment in Nuremberg looks natural. And that's
right, but that's like, I mean, this is a shoestring budget, TV version of a Broadway play. He's definitely providing his own toupee, right?
I've got
Judgment at Nuremberg. They are hair and makeup are providing him.
They kept fooled about Jimmy Stewart for 20 years.
Yeah, exactly. They're giving him an excellent stage wig, and they're maintaining it. That's a very different situation. I can't find the director.
That's awesome. All right, no worries, man. I wondered if it was that guy that played Christopher, producers, Mr. Belvedere, Christopher.
Okay,
and the producers is the Greek actor that plays Christopher's boy toy as the director and the producers and stuff, and then he's got his man Friday that is overtly playing a gay character. But he was a Greek man. Andres something.
Okay, no. Okay, so it's Nikos Pazacharopoulos.
Sure. That's sure.
Pazacharopoulos.
No, I think you did fine. Okay. That's kind of phonetically what you would how you do
it.
But
a second guy was credited on screen, and I can't find that information. Though.
Okay.
So I don't know.
Interesting.
But it may have been like a technical director along with the kind of theater director.
Yeah. That's interesting. No, I'm sorry. I wish we could direct people to a website to watch it, because I would be curious to see.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything, but so it's a mysterious, interesting thing that, if you make it to UCLA, well, it's still not going to matter because they're not going to be playing it then. So I don't know.
Well, in the meantime, if you haven't seen Beat the Devil, I hope our discussion about it might prompt you to see it, because it is an interesting movie.
Yeah,
and I think you'll appreciate the flaws as they were but there's still strong performances, good chemistry, and it's an interesting Huston film. And that's kind of what we tried to do with Scene Missing, is not give you the obvious, but throw a curveball and tell you, try and hit this one. So,
and it's lively, it's like a fun movie. It's a fun movie.
No, it's a con man movie, and you'll appreciate the con as it's happening, basically.
Yeah.
So there you go, everybody. All right. Well, thank you, Gabe, as always.
Yeah.
We'll see what we've got. A couple movies we're buzzing around, and Jeff Parker really wants us to do Night of the Hunter.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking about doing Burl Ives by request.
We are going to do Burl Ives now. This was a long time joke that has become deadly serious. So we're going to do a Burl Ives episode.
We found performances beyond Cat on a Tin Roof and Big Country. We're like, something we should do Burl Ives. Why not?
Yeah, look. I watched Zalman King's Two Moon Junction because it had Burl Ives in it.
I didn't remember that. Wow.
Wow. Sherilyn Fenn stars in it. Okay, maybe it wasn't 100% because of Burl Ives, but Sherilyn Fenn from Twin Peaks stars in it. It's pre-Twin Peaks, right? And turns out Burl Ives is in it as well. So I can at least speak to that on our Burl Ives episode.
Fantastic.
Well,
I have my bold one. I have my NBC Bold Ones episode ready to go.
All right.
And
we're going to deep dive on Burl Ives.
Night of the Hunter, the Mitchum Night of the Hunter.
Yeah. So
Chikaro is asking.
It's the
so
night.
Those are coming up as well as others, and we'll be back hopefully in August, if not definitely September, to talk more about Scene Missing. But we hope you enjoyed this episode, and until next time, everybody stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy.